Okay, now in today's video we got a live tutorial. I'm going to show you one of the most broken mechanics in FC24 that all the top tier pro players are using and everyone is abusing. It's something that you probably know already, but it's probably used not as much as you think. Now what is it? Now you're probably going to say to me, no, is it a tactic? No, it's not. It's a mechanic. That's a nice goal by Smith. I want to show you what it is now. It's simply the player lock, but it's more of where you use the player lock. So when I use the player lock, right, everyone they would use it normally in unconventional areas, right? But the key thing is its pace. I always trigger a player forward first, like as you can see on the bottom of the screen with the L1 button. This is the key. That way they're already running. I'm just going to get the ball back here and show you a counter example. Goalkeeper should save that. Goalkeeper would have saved that if that went towards the post. But look, have a look, for example, like here, right? So I'm going to trigger this player to go make that run. Then what I do is I get ready, and that player's already running, and then I request a player lock. And then where I like to use it the most actually is down the wing. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll go like this. This is where you see a lot of the pro players use it. Then you can actually get the ball to the player you want to, and then you can score the goal. Because everyone is defending cutbacks normally because they're man marking the player. But with player lock, you can use that player inside the middle, pull them away, change direction. Don't forget, if you want to use a player lock, you have to enable it in the settings. By default, it will be off in the settings. Don't forget. You want to go to your settings. I'll show you at half time. You want to go to your settings and you want to enable the player lock. And all you got to do is simply press the L3, R3 button, flick to the player you want to choose to, and that's it. Basically like that. You see, look how easy it is. You can basically break through. You can do either one you want. Like, see, this is what I mean by, for example, like using it in those situations. See how the player didn't really predict that was going to happen. This happens when I speak too quickly. Try to explain something in live time. Sometimes your voice can't keep up with the gameplay. There's other ones as well. There's ones where you can actually use the player lock and pass the ball. So I'll explain to you what I mean when I get the ball back. It works for like here, for example. So let's say I don't want Pereira really, but let's say, well, that's a really bad pass on Pereira. Absolutely shocking. But let's say, for example, at Babajide, then I can, for example, make a pass. Well, let me show you this one, owner instead. So I can make a pass, for example, ask owner to go in whatever area I want to, and then request that ball. You see that? Then, for example, like here, you can do the player lock inside the box like this. And then if I turn the right way, then they can take the shot. You see how much easier it is and how much harder it is to defend. Because everyone knows doing L1 trigger, everyone knows where that player is going. But with that player lock, it changes everything completely. I'm going to show you some more examples now. Other examples, one of my favorite ways to use actually is with a driven pass. So I'll do it like this, and I'll request a driven pass like that. And if you like to do your finesse shots or whatever you like to do, close, a bit more power, that probably would have gone in. But you could see, for example, how I used it there to get rapid no into space and get time on the ball. You can see the same thing, for example, like here. You could, for example, pass the ball upwards. Now, this is one of my favorite ones to do, is kind of just bring your ball back. Then I can select a player where I want the ball to be and try to get the ball in, request into those close gaps. Try to go to a player like Cecilia, for example. And I can wait for Alvarez. See that space there, just that gap there, just enough to give me the space, and then I get the goal. So you see, I waited for my opponent to make that mistake. I waited, saw the gap, did a driven pass to the striker, and then made the manual movement. Because you see, your opponent's defenders, they can't guess what you're doing. On the top tier scene, this is mainly for those on the elite level now. What I'd recommend is doing a bit of trickery. So you might have seen this a lot on the pro scene, and I talked about it when the game came out. Some of you guys remember, this is really, really working more effective now, would I say. You pretend to be a player lock, and then you kind of trigger the player like that, and you could try to make a pass along. So once you use a player lock a few times, your opponent's going to start thinking, I'm going to now man mark the receiver as opposed to the ball giver. It's going to defend this here. That's a very nice pass. AI kind of helped out a little bit there, actually. AI kind of helped my opponent there because my opponent wasn't really aiming for that player. Unless they were. Then that would have been a very nice pass. It's like, yeah, you can fake it like that. Bit of trickery, mix it up. And Alvarez. Bit of trickery, left it dribbling. Panic. Oh my god. Panic. You know what I love about the 45 minutes? Because everyone believes it. They just start panicking. It's the best thing ever. When people believe something exists, they panic even more. That's one key tip as well. Even if whether you believe in it or whatever you don't want to believe in. I made a video why 45-minute goals don't exist. You can check that out from last year or the year before. But if you do believe in it or whatever, use it to your advantage. If everyone else panics, then make sure you hold the ball for that 45 minutes. That way you don't lose. That way, if you lose the ball at 45 minutes, the game ends. If your opponent has the ball, they can always score. But if you have the ball, they can't score. So if you believe in 45-minute goals, just hold the ball. That way you create the chance when your opponent panics, even better for you. So in terms of the player lock, you got to go over here to here, game settings. You got to scroll all the way down. And there's two things to remember about this. With player lock, you got to turn it on. Don't forget you press the L3 and R3 button in together like so. And that is how you activate it. It turns into that kite shape. One thing that's also kind of important people don't really think about is ball relative. From my understanding, depending on what right stick switching you use for defending, it's the same for when you're attacking and using the player lock button. So I'll show you some other examples, some really, really nice, unique examples I like doing, which is kind of setting a player inwards and back outwards again. So for example, it's like doing this, to wrap it over, I'm going to cancel this one. It's like here's going upwards, then going down like that. You see that? So you pretend to go one way and then you go the other way. It's one of my favorite things to do. Because someone man marks that run, then you change direction last minute, they can't read it. You see that? Works the best on the wing. So let's say you go, for example, like here, and then you decide to run upwards. Let's just say, as an example, you can see how that would work. It's going to defend a situation over here. Nice press. Like here. So it goes like this. And then if that player is controlling that player, man, and good thing about AI, look how good AI is actually. You'll be generally surprised how good AI is at holding the ball. You said this is all AI doing this, by the way. So don't feel the need like, oh yeah, AI is going to be terrible. They're actually amazing when they're being controlled off player lock. One of my favorite things to do is use the pinged pass. When the game came out, something that they patched very early on. If you remember, I made a tweet about this. This was the real meta. It was getting the ball with someone who can do a pinged pass. Someone like... I believe, who else has it? That player from Liverpool, I forgot her name, Kirby. But like I like to do, for example, like a driven pass and then do like a first time thing. It works very, very well as well. And in fact, you can just use this all the time. You know, I'd probably say this is one of those mechanic abusing stuff, which I would probably say the ones where I'd say it's acceptable because it's a skill. You're mechanic abusing a skill that's effective. It's kind of like finesse shots, right? Finesse shots, they work. You have to defend those angles. These ones you can defend against it, but because you keep changing direction, the key thing is being unpredictable. One time you're going that way, one time you're going another way. Then you do the player lock cancels, as I said. Don't forget, if you want to see more videos like this, you can come to my Patreon series, patreon.com/NoGuides for more in-depth tutorials like this. And I'll show you also how to defend against the player lock and actually score with the player lock, especially with cutbacks. A very, very interesting video. But like you see, like here, see Alvarez. He's in the running. Okay, yeah, I could have passed the ball to him actually because he was completely on. But let's say, example, like here. See, like that, I can see that gap, and then I create that gap, and then I'm able to go into it. So you can see, example, like here. I'm triggering own over here. So I'm saying, owner, you make that run. So I'm going to go on the outside. That's a very nice tackle, actually, by the way, from Havertz. And very good dribbling. My friend's making very good use of the technical. All my controls are the same, by the way, as yours. Only difference is my tackle button is X. So whenever you see me press X when I'm defending, that's, but like, say, like, for example, like here, you see that, just that situation there. I'm going to try to do it as fast as slow as I can without losing the ball. But what I'm doing is I'm selecting a player and I'm running, like, for example, one way, and then I move. You see that? And if you double up like this, you see that? See that little trickery just there? See there's a little bit of trickery just there? You see that here I'm switching to the player there, the senior. I'm going to show you something here. This is a bit of a trickery. What I like to do is I like to send two players. I'm going to see if I can show you this in slow motion. Ignore the controllers now. What I like to do is I like to put two players next to each other against one defender. You see that? Like a 2v1. Because then when I get the ball, the opponent has to make a decision. Now, the decision normally happens is the opponent will normally go and they'll trace the player or this player on the ball. But this player, you can see my opponent just that split second pushed forward because they thought the ball was going to go to this player, it's a senior, and that's enough to draw that player away. So you see how you can use a 2v1 to your advantage. You can see like here, use the player lock again to confuse my opponent. I pretend to pass the ball outside the box and I switch to someone else. It gave me time and allowed me to take the shot towards goal. Such an overpowered mechanic, one of the most game-breaking mechanics you can actually use inside the game. Bit unlucky there with the ball. Unfortunately, my opponent is going to be losing the lone card. But like here, you pretend to go inwards. And then you can go, for example, outwards like this. Like that. Bit of the combinations. Then you can pretend to go outwards. Pretend it, fake it like that. I'm just going to go with a cheeky chip. So you see, for example, the different combinations. Always let your opponent guess. What am I going to do? Am I going to make the first pass? Am I going to do the player lock? Am I going to wait with the player lock? Am I going to go forward? Anyways, that is the video. Hope this kind of give you a bit of an insight on one of the most overpowered mechanics inside the game. Don't forget, if you want to give it an FC24, you come to my Patreon series, patreon.com/nil, guys. Links down in the description, or you can click, for example, should be on the opposite side of the screen. Click there. If you don't get bet after 1 month, refund your mind. This is the complete FC24 guide. If you don't get off 1 month, refund your mind. So, guys, I guarantee thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'll catch you next time. Peace. Fastest I've ever said that in my life. Peace.